Vault number 156 is Dallas Johnson. Dallas played 12 Origin games for Queensland after making his debut in 2006 and won all 4 series he played in. Dallas was born in Herberton on the Atherton Tablelands and played his junior footy with the Atherton Roosters. Picked up by the Melbourne Storm, Dallas spent a year at the North Devils before making his way south. A member of 4 consecutive Melbourne Grand Final teams, Dallas Johnson was described by coach Craig Bellamy as the toughest player he had ever seen. After spending 2010 in the English Super League, Dallas returned to Australia where he finished his career with the North Queensland Cowboys. Dallas Johnson in all played 222 NRL games and 1 test for Australia, a knee injury forcing his retirement midway through the 2013 season. Well, Dallas Johnson, thanks for your time. What does it mean to you to be a Fog?
To be a Fog, yeah, I think if I can paint the picture a little bit to go back from where I grew up, there wasn't, I suppose, the opportunities out there that there is now, and when Origin came on, rugby league was the sport in my hometown in Herberton, or the Atherton Tablelands, and it was plugged into the calendar first thing you put in the calendar at the start of the year. And then when it came on, we'd have 20 or 30 people around home watching that one screen, barracking for that one team, the Maroons, and it galvanised the community for us. And I saw Dad break so many chairs and jumping up and down, and just the passion displayed by everyone in the community. That was something I worked out that from a very young age that I wanted to wear that jersey. So that's what it means to me.
Take us back to growing up in Herberton. What was it like? Give us an insight into your early years.
Yeah, great place to grow up. It was a rural area, farming background. I had a lot of farms around there. We come from Dad owned a farm, and there was a lot of outdoor activity, motorbike riding, push bike riding, and playing footy. And there wasn't much else. It was kind of working, motorbike riding, footy, and that was it. And it was a great outdoorsy lifestyle. The Tablelands is a fantastic place now. I still call it home. I haven't lived there for 20 odd years. I still call the Tablelands the home, and as home, and it's I think it's just a fantastic place for kids to grow up.
When you started playing, what age were you, and who did you start playing with?
I played for the mighty Herberton Magpies. I lived about 400 metres up the road from the field, so I spent a fair bit of time there. I was around 6, and Dad reminded me the other day that I was picking the daisies out the back off the field. So, yeah, about 6 I started playing. So
what was it like playing for Herberton in that area? What sort of travel did you have to do to play your games, or was it not as far spread as a lot of other country areas? Yeah, we were pretty lucky. There's the Tablelands are made up of 4 towns, maybe 5 if you include Mareeba, but it's Atherton, Herberton, Ravenshoe and Melander, and they're all about half an hour apart. So, and we had an extreme rivalry between all towns, and so it wasn't the distance wasn't a huge issue, and we all kind of knew each other. Everyone on the Tablelands kind of knows each other anyway, so created a lot of rivalry. Atherton was the big smoke. It was the major town, major hub of the Tablelands, and so the littler towns, the Herberton, the Ravenshoe and the Melander kind of always battled against Atherton. So when did that young Dallas Johnson go from being the boy at the back picking the daisies to be the one that was going to be picked to play in representative teams and potentially forge a career in rugby league? When did it start getting serious for you? Well, I can remember in my bedroom I had a poster on the wall, which is a brute force poster. I don't know if anyone can remember that. It was Mel kind of coming out of and Wally was behind him, and a couple of, I think Alf was on the poster as well. And I think I learnt it was about
again, Origin was at our place on the TV every year. We'd have 30 people, 20, 30 people watching that screen, barracking for it. And I saw the passion that people displayed watching that game, and I think I worked out around 13. And I didn't want to play for a club. I wanted to wear that maroon jersey.
And how then did that boy from Herberton and the Atherton Tablelands end up at the North Devils?
At the North Devils. Yeah, good story. I worked hard. I realised I wasn't the most skillful player, but I was obviously the logical step for me was close going to Cowboys. The Cowboys came in '95, and I would love to get picked up with the Cowboys, and it's probably a blessing in disguise now where I was making a few rep teams on my way through, and they were picking other players other than me, and which was frustrating. I was making rep teams and they weren't, and they were getting picked up in the elite academies and stuff like that. And now it's a blessing in disguise. It made me work a lot harder on my game and make me realise that this is what I wanted. So I think I was playing, maybe it might be a Queensland under 17s. I think it was like Queensland or might have been schoolboys down in Burleigh. And Melbourne Storm scouts were down there. It was Theo Burgess at the time. He's passed now a while ago, and he must have saw something in me and picked me up and signed me for the Melbourne Storm. And at the time, that was in 1999. They won the comp second year in the comp, and I really didn't realise the enormity of that signing. I'd signed with the premiership winning team. I was just that pumped or lucky that I was picked up by some club. That's because that's the path I wanted to go on.
So you came to Brisbane to play with the Devils, who a number of your other Melbourne Storm teammates made their pathway through there as well. So what about a young bloke coming from Herberton to the, in inverted commas, big smoke? What was your initial time in Brisbane like?
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed Brisbane time. Now I live back here, so it was scary, extremely scary to come down from home to the big smoke. But it was really the system really supported us kids coming into town. Well, I know we lived in the Storm at a house, and there was 5 other players there, and we lived with Mark Murray's parents actually, and they were fantastic. They looked after us, cooked. Kevin and Irene, they cooked all the meals, and we just kind of had to go to work during the day or go to school during the day and come back, and everything was looked after us. For that first year was that system made us a lot more comfortable coming into the big smoke.
Do you reckon that was a key year to be able to do that and establish that base, that foundation for you?
It made it a lot easier. It's still a kind of a home environment, I suppose. You've got your parents there looking after you. You're a young kid. We had Dave Collis, Nick Henderson, Nick Walker, and Michael Russo, who all lived in the house, and we were all got on really well. It made the transition a lot easier for us to come into the big smoke.
When did you start, not so much dreaming, but believing that you belonged at the next level, Q Cup level, but then had the aspirations to say, well, I'm not far away? When did you sort of realise that the NRL was knocking?
I don't think I did, really. I wasn't... I was always aspirational to play the game, to play at the elite level. I didn't know if I'd ever get there. I worked extremely hard. I didn't know if I'd ever get there, and there was probably, things happen in your life, and I was nearly going to get cut from the North system as well. The whole story through my junior life was junior league was you were never big enough to play the game, And it was probably more to play the game the way I played it. I was never big enough to forge a career at NRL level, which is a bit of a red flag, a bulldog red flag for me. If someone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to prove you wrong. And fortunate enough, if we progress down to it was a train and trial really down in Melbourne that really gave me that opportunity.
Do you reckon it was the right club because you were with a coach that liked players that worked hard and that, you know, Craig Bellamy and those in charge saw something in you because of that work ethic you spoke about before?
Yeah, I think I was probably, you hit the nail on the head there. It's nail on the head, is that right? Head on the, yeah. So, yeah, I think Craig wasn't the most skillful player as well, and I think but we had something that probably does align with us. We had pretty good work ethic. So I think maybe, I don't know whether he did or not, maybe he saw a little bit of him in me, and I wasn't going to give up, and I was going to work my hardest. And when we got down there, we had, it was unbeknownst to me that there was about 12 players went down just for the off-season, or for the pre-season. And there was 2 spots, and I didn't know there was 2 spots. And I'm probably a bit more of a man of actions than words, so I just got down there and put my head down and trained extremely hard. And they were far, in those 12 guys that went down there, they were far better players than me. And he ended up, Brett Finn was actually one that I think was extremely unlucky. I lived with him. He was a Sydney sider, and he was an athlete, skillful, and I don't know. He ended up keeping at the end of pre-season. He ended up keeping Billy Slater, who some people might know about, and myself down there to stay on, which is and maybe it was about that. Craig and I kind of aligned a little bit.
Well, much has been said and written about over the years about the Melbourne Storm pre-season. Was it a wake-up call in Melbourne as to how hard you had to work, but having that work ethic, did that help you?
I had a foundational work ethic from farming background. I feel I had a pretty good work ethic from there. But yeah, if you're going into a Melbourne Storm system and you don't have work ethic, you won't last very long. And everyone has to. Every club works extremely hard. That club works. There's just I think there's probably a bit of another level to it, and it was actually through the whole time I was at Melbourne. Those 2 weeks prior to pre-season training, it was the worst 2 weeks of your life because you know you were going back to pre-season. Yeah.
Well, you spoke about Billy Slater as the other player to pick up that second spot. Remarkably, you made your NRL debut and played your 150th NRL game with Billy Slater. So your careers are interlinked there. But when did you realise that you were part of a team that was going to pretty much dominate for so long? And you look at the players that you ended up playing with who will go down in the history books as some of the greatest to ever play the game.
Yeah, I've been meaning to call Bill and tell him about it. He hung on my coattails for a fair while, don't get me wrong. But yeah, that North system at the time, you look at the players that have come through that North system, there's probably 4 future immortals that come through that system. It was a fantastic system, breeding ground for some fantastic players, and the calibre of and we all went down to Melbourne at a very similar time, and we were very fortunate that when we went down, the club had success. So they knew what success looks like. And there were some people there, senior players that were there, like your Robbie Kearns, your Steve Kearns, your Matty Guys, your Rodney Howes, that are good people, that you can build good people with good work ethics. And us young guys coming into that system, we had a bit of a leg up straight away, I felt. And when you're in Melbourne, because we all came from out of town, none of us came from Melbourne. If you didn't have mates, if you weren't mates with your teammates in Melbourne, then you didn't have any mates. So I think it really galvanised the group between the young and the old, and we followed the old, and very fortunate to progress the way we did.
Is it fair to say that 2006 was the start of a magical run for you personally, also for the Melbourne Storm with those 4 straight grand finals, and it was when you made your Origin debut? Can you take us back to that time when you received that phone call and memories went back to sitting around the table at Herberton watching the TV and your dad breaking the chairs to be able to say that, hey, I've got that maroon jumper?
That was my lifelong dream. My lifelong dream was to wear a maroon jersey, and I can remember it vividly because it's one of my favourite moments. I've played a few games. I've had a pretty fortunate career, and there's probably 2 moments that I'm really proud of, and they weren't to do with playing football on the field. Remember the first one when I got that call. Funnily enough, we had played the Saturday night, and we did our recovery the next day for the Storm, and a few of the boys were at the pub having a beer, and my old man was there as well, and I got that call that I was in that going to make my debut for Queensland. I'd been selected in Queensland, and the boys were so pumped, and my dad was there as well, which is a really special moment.
Going into camp for the first time, what was that like?
Oh, I don't know if I can swear on this on this podcast. It was scary. For me. It was scary. It was a dream that I had conjured up for so long, and to come in there and see the calibre of players, and to think, I've heard Gooden Tallis say this once before, and I think he's spot on. I was fortunate enough to play 12 games, but you question yourself whether you're good enough to wear that maroon jersey. So that was, it was all. The biggest fear is letting someone down, or letting the team down, and letting the state down. So it was a super intense environment, and one I thoroughly enjoyed. But it's to go back there would be great.
When did you then believe that you were good enough to play Origin? How long did it take you?
Oh, I still didn't know at the end, I don't.
After the 12 games?
12 games, I don't know. You kind of... It's the pinnacle of our game. And the way I saw it is the pinnacle game, and I worn some other jerseys, and that jersey was the jersey I wanted to wear. That means more to me than a lot of other jerseys. So
what was it like running out for the first time wearing that jersey?
Oh, extremely nervous. Yeah, I was extremely nervous. I remember our first game. It was the first game of obviously the run. I started. We were 18-0, I think it was, after 20 minutes, I think it was. If my memory corrects me right. And come in at half time, and we were getting pumped, and anyway, no, was it the other way around? Oh, I stuffed that up. Yeah, no, we were getting pumped, and then anyway, long story short, we clawed our way back. Brett Finch kicked the field goal and won the first game. So, it was I remember my first game. I'm thinking, this is the fastest game you're ever going to play. How am I going to get through this game? So, not that I wasn't going flat out, but you're going to have to conserve some energy. But Origin's not like that. The pure emotion just gets you through the game. It goes in a heartbeat.
Did it help having some Melbourne and Norths boys alongside you?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, the players that you know pretty well and you've played a fair few games with, that helps you out a fair bit.
As you look back at that era and those players, what are your thoughts now? At the time, they were teammates of you. You knew they were good players, but you mentioned before, some of those players are going to be immortals that came through that North system there. As you look back now, what's your understanding or thought process with regards to the players that you were teammates with?
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate to come into a system in the Melbourne Storm system. That is an elite system, and the players that I was around, I was very fortunate to be around those players. We were all exactly on the same page. We knew exactly what we needed to do. The game was, Craig, his coaching model is simplifies everything, and you've got a simple job, and so all you need to do is worry about what you need to do. You trusted everyone else to do their job, and everyone felt like that in that system. So, yeah, I think I probably wasn't as talented as a lot of the players that I was, like we've mentioned, and very, very fortunate to be able to play alongside those guys.
12 matches for Queensland, 4 series wins. Once you'd had that taste in game number 1, and despite the fact that it was that close loss, what did that do to your motivation, already a hard worker, to get back there and A, atone for the loss, but also B, to be a member of a Queensland series winning side?
Oh, you never take it for granted, any game. And we knew we were going down the barrel of no New South Wales or Queensland had ever won 4 straight. And New South Wales, the 3 years prior, won 3 straight, and they were going for the 4th straight. So we knew there was enormous pressure around that, and we knew that was not going to happen. So, and great players, as they do, they find ways to win games. And you look at one of those great players in Darren Lockyer, and we were playing the 3rd game at Melbourne, which is a great place to cap off a series. Hodgson threw that wayward pass. Lockie went through, Johnny on the spot. But great players see that before see that before other players, and he was Johnny on the spot and scored the try, and we come away with that win. That was a really memorable moment in my career.
As I mentioned, from 2006, that 4-year period with Origin and the Grand Finals with the Melbourne Storm, but it's also tinged with that controversy and that disappointment, I suppose, heartbreak of having 2 of those premierships taken off you. How did you cope with that after the event, having played in a Grand Final winning side, but their record books don't show that Melbourne won the premiership?
Yeah, it's disappointing. We know how much hard work went into win those premierships. How the club was run at the time is not. We don't know what everyone's around the salary cap. We don't know what everyone's getting paid. From my perspective, we were all young guys that progressed through the North system. The club had never bought players. So the way I look at it, those 2 premierships, I've still got the rings at home. I know how much hard work went into winning those 2 premierships. So in my heart, we've still won those two premierships. So it's taken me a bit to get over that, the factor of it, but people can say what they want to say about it. We know how much hard work went into winning those, and it wasn't the 4 years or the 2 to win the 2 premierships. It was the 3 years of 3 years prior when Craig came, and how much work how hard that pressure environment was to get to that point to progress, or get the players to that level. So for me, I've still got 2 rings at home, and we won those premierships.
You mentioned earlier how when you were a young bloke and, had sort of aspirations, dreams, not the dream was the Maroon jersey, but potentially playing for the Cowboys. Well, you ended up there. Tell us how you went from Melbourne to North Queensland.
Yes, I was actually in Europe at the time. My wife and I were travelling around Europe, I got a call from Kevin Walters, and he said, "Would you like to come over to the Catalans Dragons?" And I always wanted to go to France. Always wanted to experience a different culture. I probably didn't want to go when I left, so I left after 2009. I went to do the 2010 season in France. It was a little bit earlier than I wanted to go from Melbourne, but I didn't know if I'd get that opportunity again. So I made the decision to take my wife over there. She was heavily pregnant at the time.
Was it a cultural thing, or like to live in Europe, or to play the rugby league in a different environment? What was the motivating factor there?
Both, but the cultural aspect of it was a huge part. To live in the south of France, it was a fantastic place to live. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've still got a connection with it. My first daughter was born in France. Unfortunately, the football year didn't work out as well as I would have thought it would have. It was actually a diabolical year. We got the spoon in the Super League, which was a pretty bitter pill to cop. It was a tough year.
You're not used to that?
No, I'm not used to losing. So, and I don't like losing. But these things happen. You'll learn, you grow from these things, and moving forward. So the lifestyle, I thoroughly enjoy my time over there. I really appreciate the Catalans Dragons for giving me that opportunity to play there. Later on in the year, and I probably wasn't the player they needed to go there. Anyway, later on in the year, I got a call from Neil Henry. He said, "Would you come back to play for the North Queensland Cowboys?" Now the Cows had never had grand final success at that stage, and it was moving closer to home again. I thought I would love to get that club to win a grand final. So I made the decision to come back to the Cows.
Where does that sit then in decision making? Were you happy with making that call, and what was your time like in North Queensland?
Oh, well, what you realise now is your career is so short. Your career is so short, and I try and say it to young people now: cherish all your moments, because I know I didn't value it as much as I should have. Your career is very short. When I went there was I think there was a changeover of about 13 players. So there was a whole restructure of the club. So it was kind of starting from scratch again. You had to build a culture, and they hadn't had success. I've come out of a very successful system. I knew what success looked like, and there was a lot of hard work that had to go into the club to get it for the players to recognise what they need to do to be at the elite level.
Looking back on your career now, you spoke before about being told, or the word was that you weren't big enough to play the way you played the game. A number of coaches, Kevin Walters you mentioned, Craig Bellamy speaks highly, one of the toughest players to ever play the game. Looking back now, and particularly with where we sit in this day and age with, the knocks and the concussion rules, et cetera, do you look back and wonder how at times you made it through?
I don't really reflect too much on my career, to be fair. I haven't watched a game of myself. I don't think I have. I don't reflect a great deal. My skill was going back again. I wasn't the most skillful player. I was told I was never going to be big enough to play at the NRL level, so I proved people wrong. But I was I classed myself as a pretty good defender and as a technical defender as well. I got a few head knocks. I probably did a lot more tackles than a lot of other people did as well. So I was probably in that position a lot more often than other people were. But yeah, it's a scary part of the game, a part of the game we don't want to see. But it's part of our game. It's a physical game. It's a tough game, and people like to want to see that contact.
What keeps you busy now?
I've got two young girls, and not so young now, teenagers now, and a wife. I've got a start-up on the go. That takes a lot of my time to trying to get off the ground.
Who had the biggest influence on your career?
I think my parents would have to be them and Craig Bellamy were probably the biggest. Craig, my parents gave me the platform and the fundamentals of life skills and work ethic, and to go and chase your dreams. And Craig gave me the opportunity. So I think I was going back. I think that it was kind of those, you got to get a bit of luck in life sometimes, and I think that was probably a fair bit of luck that our work ethic or our morals kind of aligned. So I think I was very lucky that he gave me the opportunity. I don't know if I was in another system, I don't know if I would have progressed the way I would have.
So what do you reckon the young kid back in Herberton picking the daisies and then watching Origin with the local community, I suppose, as growing up, would think if someone said to him, well, Dallas, you're going to play 12 games in that maroon jersey, you're going to play a test match for Australia, you're going to play in grand finals, you're going to play in the south of France, you're going to play over 200 NRL games. What do you reckon that kid would say if someone told him that, 20, 30 years ago?
Oh, when you look at it that way, I'll have to say you're full of shit. But I'm extremely. When you say it like that, you don't really look back and reflect on that too much. But when you say it like that, I was extremely fortunate, and I'm extremely proud of my career, I suppose.
As you should be. Fog number 156, Dallas Johnson. Congratulations on a wonderful career, and thanks so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Fog's Queenslander podcast. If there's a Fog you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.